the audio of the portion of the interview in which Beau's death came up.
Who brought up Beau's death?
The president was talking about that period of his life in response to a question about that period of his life from the special counsel and brought up Beau.
The special counsel didn't bring up Beau's death on his own?
I don't think so, but I don't recall specifically from that. I don't think so, though.
The president said the special counsel brought up Beau's death. Was he lying?
I don't have any reason to think he was lying about it.
Did he misremember who brought up Beau's death?
I can't speak to sort of why the president in a press conference answered a question or said something the way he said it.
Were you involved in preparing him for that press conference?
I did not meet with him or was not a part of his formal prep meeting for that press conference. It's possible I may have drafted some recommended talking point kind of Q&A material for it.
In any of the material you reviewed for that press conference, was Beau Biden in it?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
So the president brought up his son on his own at the press conference as well?
It's possible, yeah. I wasn't a part of the meeting with him immediately before he went out to answer questions and speak, so I'm not entirely sure kind of what the contours of those conversations with his other aides were.
Did you read the transcript portion regarding his son as well, in addition to listening to the audio?
I did.
I'm going to read you what the president said at that press conference. He said, I'm quoting, "How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself it wasn't any of their damn business." Did the special counsel ask him about Beau Biden's death?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay, so that statement is not true.
Can you repeat which statement?
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself it wasn't any of their damn business.
Did you have a copy of the transcript? Maybe we'll look it up.
We can get one.
Yeah.
We can go off the record and grab one. Asking more generally about this, I asked it, I think, first, but at the press conference after her report was released, the president said something along the lines of, why did the special counsel ask about Beau? And you said that you had reviewed both the transcript and the audio of the special counsel's report, and the special counsel did not ask about Beau. Is that accurate?
It is my recollection that the special counsel did not ask President Biden, when did your son die? I think to respond to the general line, when the president said, how in the hell dare he raise that? And then he said, when I was asked the question, my understanding was that the president was upset that the special counsel report invoked Beau and Beau's death in any way, shape, or form. I think he was hurt by that and angry about it. So in the first part where he says how the hell he raised that or whatever the language was, I think my understanding is he was channeling sort of a frustration that he had about the report, but I don't recall the special counsel asking him a specific question about Beau's death.
What was your understanding based on?
What do you mean? Sorry.
You just described your understanding of Joe Biden's intention. What was your understanding based on?
Sure. Again, when the president's lawyers had, my understanding of this, when the president's lawyers, because I was not firsthand, I just want to be clear, when the president's lawyers had met with the president about the report, my understanding from them was that his reaction to hearing that was in there was that he was upset.
Do you recall any conversations prior to the issuance of the report while the office was reviewing it about the discussion of Beau Biden?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
The White House counsel's office got an opportunity to review the report prior to publication. Were there discussions amongst the staff regarding the mention of Beau Biden?
I think so. Again, it's been a while. I think that the couple days leading up to the report coming out, I think that there was some discussion that they can't believe that he even mentioned Beau or something like that.
Did you recall why the special counsel mentioned that particular Q&A?
I don't recall specifically what the special counsel report said about it.
Was it that the president forgot when his son died?
It may have been. Again, I don't have the language of the report in front of me, but to the best of my recollection, he was using that as some sort of proof point about the characterizations he made about the president's memory overall. When I think subsequently when the transcript was released, the president says explicitly the day that Beau Biden died, and I believe there was some crosstalk about what year it was, and so I think that there was my understanding from the president, and then certainly among aides, that there was a sense that that was very inappropriate to sort of make a sweeping characterization based on that, when in fact the president had said the exact date of Beau's death, which sort of contradicts that he has some sort of terrible memory and couldn't remember when his son died.
Your understanding from the president told you that he was upset about this?
Again, I did not talk directly with the president before the special counsel report came out, but that was my understanding from his lawyers who
From the
had met
staff.
with him.
Yeah, so the staff relayed the president's position.
Well, again, I didn't think it was unusual because, again, it's like this is an individual who was the subject of a special counsel investigation. He would be meeting with his lawyers. A lot of times those are privileged conversations between a lawyer and a client. It's not unusual that I wouldn't have been a part of those conversations in the middle of a legal investigation.
Were there other instances in her report where the president forgot dates or times?
I'm sure there were. If I recall correctly, even at the beginning of the interview, I think the special counsel says something along the lines to the president of, please do your best to remember things. I know I'm asking you about things that happened a really long time ago. There seemed to be an understanding, and I think that's generally true. I think, you said that at the beginning of this interview to me, of trying to do my best to remember stuff when you're doing an interview. And so, I'm sure there were things that he couldn't remember or didn't remember in the same way that I'm sure there are things I don't remember.
Some of them were pretty big dates, like the day President Trump got elected. He said it was November of 2017. Do you recall seeing that?
I'm sure I did at the time.
Another one was, he said, in 2019, am I still vice president? Do you recall seeing that at the time?
I'm sure I had seen that at the time.
Did these kinds of lapses surprise you?
No.
Why not?
I didn't think it was unusual that when you're having a conversation with someone about stuff that happened, a decade ago, essentially, when asking about documents that have been taken, that you might mix up dates, times, years.
The interview was in 2023 and he mixed up the second presidential election before that. That's 5 years. Was that common? Did the president commonly mess up dates?
In my experience and from my interactions with him, I didn't see that very often. I mean, I'm aware, obviously, of media reports of him, mixing something up at a press conference or something like that.
You said you didn't see it very often. Did you see it sometimes?
In my own interaction with him, no, I never saw that.
President Biden also says in the transcript, well, if it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president? When did President Biden stop being vice president?
I believe it was January 2017.
So you remember that, but he couldn't remember when he was no longer living at the vice president's residence.
Is there a question?
Does that surprise you?
No, I mean, I think I was pretty clear about the contours of the interview and, talking about issues over the course of years and trying to get bearings within the confines of an interview. Are we talking about this time or that time? And, of course he misspoke or misremembered certain things through the course of that interview.
And then the in the special counsel's report, you touched on it, but there's a number of instances where he discusses the president's memory in conjunction with the classified document investigation. You're aware of that.
Yes.
And this was one of the primary concerns that both you and the White House counsel and the president's personal attorney had with that report. Is that fair?
Yes, I think that it's fair to say that the characterizations about his memory were something that we found inappropriate in the report.
And there was a series of letter back and forth between the White House and the Department of Justice. You mentioned that, so you're aware of those letters.
Yes.
Were you involved in the drafting of any of those letters?
No.
Did you see any of those letters prior to them being issued?
Not that I recall, no.
Did you review her report prior to being issued?
No, I did not.
Talked about it a little bit, but you insinuated, so I'll ask directly. The White House counsel's office got a copy of the interview transcript prior to the report.
Yes, we had access to a transcript of the interview prior to the report.
Do you recall any conversations regarding the president's memory after reviewing that transcript?
No, I don't recall having any conversations after reading the transcript about his memory.
Did you have any other, what were the conversations regarding reading the transcript?
Maybe it's helpful to kind of talk about my access to that and what my role in the whole process was. So when I was reading the transcript, I think one of the things that I was doing was preparing for, in the eventuality that this transcript was public, what kind of media questions are we going to get? And what are the issues that we think people are going to focus on? What are things that we're going to have to, figure out how to answer in the same way that I think communications aides would work on any number of issues. And so in that process, there may have been some, different things in that interview that I would jot down as something that we might, get asked about and take it as my homework to figure out with the lawyers or whatever, what the right way to answer, questions would be.
What struck you as something to jot down?
Well, that's a good question. There was obviously the primary focus of the investigation was how classified documents ended up at his house and at his personal office after his time as vice president. There were portions of the interview where, he was trying to describe how the process of moving boxes or unpacking and packing his offices or things like that happened. And I knew we were going to have to answer questions about that because that was the underlying subject of the interview. So that comes to mind as something I definitely, flagged and wanted to prepare for.
Did you flag any of the memory lapses as something the press might ask questions about?
By the time I had reviewed it, I was aware that some of the date stuff had gotten a little bit jumbled. So I may have flagged that as something to be ready for. You
said that by the time you reviewed it, you were already aware that the dates got jumbled. Who told you?
Because there was, I should also kind of explain. To the best of my recollection, it wasn't right after the interview that I read the transcript. There had been a little while that went by. I don't recall exactly when I read the transcript, but during the course of that period, I think the lawyers had already been going back and forth, with the special counsel. It may have been mentioned to me by some legal colleagues that he may have messed up a year on something, or I can't recall exactly the contours of that.
Were they basing those comments to you based off already reading the transcript to the best of your knowledge? Were you late in the game in reading the transcript? Had others already read it?
Certainly not many, there's not that many people, but a number of my White House counsel legal colleagues, the lawyers who were working on this matter, had read it, or in a couple of their cases been in the room for the interview well before I had read the transcript.
Do you recall any conversations about the date mix-ups prior to anyone receiving the transcript?
Not that I can recall.
And Do you recall who brought to you the date mix-ups?
I don't recall who exactly.
Did they express any concerns about it?
I think in the process of like preparing for the eventuality of this being public, it was mentioned that, if he got this year wrong or something, that could be something that people focus on. But it never really became a major focal point until it was in my legal colleagues had reviewed the report and knew that this was a major criticism of the special counsel. So it wasn't until that point that I really, felt like that was even going to, so to speak, be a thing.
Mm-hmm. You said that you didn't have a role in drafting the letters back and forth between.
No.
After the White House and personal lawyers were able to review the report, do you recall conversations about the special counsel's characterization of the president's memory?
Yes.
What were those?
I think, and I mentioned this just a minute ago in our conversation, the general view was that it was inappropriate that those would be included in a report that the special counsel knew was going to be made public. And I think there was, maybe belief that that was done intentionally, since the special counsel had made a decision that this was not a case that in any way was worth prosecuting or that they could bring, that to so-called, so to speak, to throw a bone to people who are going to be upset about that decision, especially in, comparison to the decisions that have been made about that then former President Trump, that maybe some of these characterizations had been made as a sort of, dog whistle meat throwing exercise to appease critics. And so we certainly had conversations about that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the perception was that special counsel Hur was playing politics with the report a little bit?
I didn't want to, I'll speak to my views. My view is I couldn't state that with certainty. It seemed like certainly a possibility that this was sort of a way to put something in there that could, give critics a little bit of fodder.